So PolitiFact tweeted Donald Trump's file, and of course they've tracked some of his statements like they do with virtually all political figures. Now, before I give you the results, I want you guys to remember something. PolitiFact, if anything, is biased against the left because they try their hardest to keep everything 50-50. They really bend over backwards to do the false neutrality thing. But even with that, you're about to see Donald Trump couldn't maintain a good file. Now, to dig a little deeper here, you might say, well, I don't know how you can argue that they try to be balanced. What evidence do you have for that, Kyle? And my answer is very simple. It was about a year ago or so, there was a report released. It was an independent analysis of PolitiFact's findings for different statements made by politicians and media figures. And they found that, bottom line, Democrats tell the truth more than Republicans do. So they went through PolitiFact's files, they found that, but what happened next? The head of PolitiFact tried to silence that report and that analysis from coming out. I think it was a university that did it. And he said, I don't want you to release this because, it gives the impression to people that we're biased and that, we're on the side of liberals. And we're not. We're totally neutral, and we try to keep it neutral. So in other words, what he's saying is, it may be the case that liberals tell the truth way more than Republicans. But even if that is the case, well, we're going to try to bend over backwards a little bit and be as kind as we can to the right so we can try to give the appearance of a 50-50 thing here so that we can escape the accusations of bias. Now, this all comes back to a major issue that we talk about all the time. It's the idea of objectivity versus neutrality. The media's job is not to be neutral. The media's job is to be objective. So if liberals on a certain issue are 100% right, like climate change, and the conservatives are wrong, it is objective to point that out. But the media, like CNN, for example, and other mainstream networks, and PolitiFact sometimes does this, they say, well, it's a debate, ongoing debate, we have to hear both sides, and we have to give this appearance as if there's still a real conversation to be had, even though the reality is we know the answers on a lot of these different things. Another example, do tax cuts for the rich lead to economic growth? We have pretty good data that says absolutely not. But if you look at PolitiFact files on this, or you look at the things CNN has said, they present it as like, oh, open question, we don't know, you got to give credence to both sides. Not only that, but, PolitiFact gave Obama their lie of the year one year for saying something that wasn't really all that bad a lie. They argued with Rachel Maddow over something, and I believe in that instance Rachel Maddow was 100% right. To the Obama thing, the lie that they said he did, the lie of the year was, if you like your health care, you can keep it. They gave that lie of the year. Now, what's the reality about that? What Obama should have said is, if you like your health care, you can keep it, or it'll get better and you pay less for it. That would have been a totally accurate statement on Obama's part, but he only said the first part of that, so PolitiFact said, lie of the year, lie of the year, lie of the year. As far as lies go, it was a good lie because people actually should have been happier as a result of it. So he says, oh, you like your healthcare, you can keep it. But what happened with some people? They couldn't keep their healthcare. That's true. But they got cheaper healthcare that covered more things. So it was a positive for them, and net positive. But they gave it the lie of the year either way. And that's crazy. That's crazy. So clearly, I think it's been demonstrated that they bend over backwards to be too kind to the right, and they're not super objective. But even with their neutrality bias or their slight right-wing bias here, get this. How many true statements does Donald Trump have? 0. Adorable. How many mostly true statements? 0. What a twat waffle he is. Nothing is mostly true and nothing is true. This guy has verbal diarrhea of factual inaccuracies on a daily basis. Again, look at the history of PolitiFact. I'm telling you, the idea that they're, some sort of uber left-wing organization is nonsense. But even they look at Donald Trump and they're like, oh, God. That's not true. Remember just the Mexican rapist thing illustrates this perfectly. And look at how he phrased it. He did say they're rapists, and then he said, I assume some of them are good people. So in other words, it's not like the rapists are the exception to the rule of them being good people. It's the other way in his mind. They're mostly rapists and criminals and whatnot. I assume some of them are good people. Oh, ridiculous. All right, let's keep going. How many are half true? Only 5 statements were half true, which is 18% of his file. Okay, how about mostly false? 4 statements. That's 14% of his file. How about just flat out false? 15 statements. 54% of what he says is flat out false. And finally, pants on fire? 4 statements, which is 14% of his file. So to put it another way, 2 in 3 claims checked from Trump resulted in a rating of false or pants on fire. False. Okay, see, this is the problem, or I should say, one of the biggest problems with the two parties today. You have one party which is more connected to reality, one party that gives a shit about the facts. That's not saying they're perfect, that's not saying they don't have blind spots. Of course they do. But by and large, one party is more connected to the facts and they make more sense. And the other party, they live in a fact-free universe. They don't give a shit about facts. They don't give a shit about reality. It's all about, can you meet their emotional needs? Can you be a strong authoritarian leader who's loud, who makes them feel good? And the irony is that's always what they accuse the liberals of being. They always say, oh, these mushy liberals, they're softies, they don't care about harsh truths, all they care about is feelings and emotions and just trying to get that sensation that everything is okay. That's all the liberals care about. That's all you care about on the right. And stuff like this proves it. Donald Trump is crushing the rest of the Republican field in every poll right now. And this is a guy who 2/3 of the things he says objectively are false? And this is your candidate? No, there is no equivalence between the parties. One party is much more correct. The other party is much more wrong, and we have data and facts to back it up.